Welcome to the Made podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Like I said to you before we start this recording, it's my turn today.
Yeah, I'm in the hot seat.
How often are you in the hot seat, actually?
You know, I recently had a interview with Entrepreneur Magazine. That was a couple of weeks ago. And so, yeah, that was a few weeks ago. And I realized I think I prefer to ask the questions.
It's actually such a different perspective, but I'll try to, I'll try to be kind. But, we are here to talk about something really purposeful. And these podcasts are taking on their own life force, to be honest with you. So we started it off in a fairly not glossy way. I think we were forceful even from day one with Sonal. But every single time we sit, it's just getting deeper and deeper and deeper, the conversation. The layers of the onion are like getting peeled off. So I'm really excited to speak to you today.
Me too.
Fellow Australian.
Yes.
How long have you been in Dubai?
It's been close to 9 years.
Amazing.
So I was living in Canberra before I arrived in Dubai, but I was brought up in Sydney, Australia.
Amazing, Sydney girl like me. Amazing. And like you've told me, you came here on quite a whim, actually.
Yes. So I actually had a stopover in Dubai, as everyone does.
Yeah.
And I reached out to someone on LinkedIn because somebody said to me that you should see the radio studios in Dubai. And I didn't even know that there were English-speaking radio stations here. And so I reached out to somebody who was the CEO of ARN at the time.
Amazing.
His PA responded and we organized a meeting. I was here for, I think, 48 hours. So I came to Dubai to check out the studios and the radio station, not for the purpose of a job, but it was just really that's what radio people do. They go from studio to studio.
So basically you were having a sticky beat.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's put this in Aussie terms.
Just to check out their studios.
And how did it compare, by the way?
I mean, theirs were much flashier than ours in Australia. It was very Dubai.
That's so funny.
And so then I had a 1.5 hour meeting here. I really got along with the CEO, checked out the studios, forgot about it, went back to Australia.
Amazing.
Had my little holiday. 6 months later, I got a call from Virgin Radio saying that there's an opening and they want me to apply.
How cool is that?
It was literally the stars aligned, and so I started applying, but I remember at the time you're meant to just send your voice recording. And I was sending updates, even though they didn't ask for it, every week. Like, here's another voice recording. Here's a story of my life. Here are some, articles and things like that. So that's how the journey to Dubai began.
That's amazing.
Yeah, thank
well,
you.
I mean, that's okay. We're talking about making it happen. I mean, there you go. There's a perfect example of making it happen. I mean, you really made yourself shine.
Absolutely.
In the most simplest of ways, right?
And, sometimes people, I feel like, have you ever read The Alchemist?
Yes, of course.
So
amazing.
It's all about, you get different signs from people.
Yeah.
In life on a day-to-day basis, and it just depends what you do. So when someone said to me, you should contact someone in Dubai at the radio station, they've got cool studios, I sent a message on LinkedIn, and
but you took the action.
Took the action. And I think that's the most important part. We just get so many different messages every single day. So it's important to, really filter out the ones that don't matter and the ones that do, taking action on those, because you never know. It's like, those books that we used to read when we were young, the Choose Your Own Adventure.
Oh my God, I used to love them.
Me too.
Go to page 12 or page 28.
Life is a bit like that, right?
Yes, it is a lot like that.
A lot like that.
I mean, when you take that into AI.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I don't even, the possibilities are endless.
Infinite.
We could literally be living in a parallel universe.
Infinite.
Oh
my Lord.
Yeah, with the help of AI.
No, it's quite interesting because we've talked about that as well. The concept of choose your own adventure, the vision board, which we now know you're a vision board queen. We're going to talk about that. And the idea of, do we plan our life, or do we respond to life, or is our response, is that our integrity? Is it, people say it's 90% how you respond. It's not what happens to you. There's so many different ways of looking at the concept
Yes.
of living, let's say, or
Agreed.
making a life happen for
100%.
yourself.
Yeah,
It's actually really complicated. I mean,
it is.
you have a unique story because you are Australian, but you were not born in Australia.
Yeah. So I'm originally from Afghanistan, and my parents left Afghanistan as refugees when the Russians invaded.
Amazing.
And so they had like many refugees, had
Yeah.
a tough journey when they decided to leave.
Yeah.
So they walked on foot from Afghanistan to Pakistan for over a week.
Wow.
On horseback with 3 children, and the youngest being my sister, who was 6 months old.
Crazy.
They paid a smuggler with very little food and water. The threat of, I guess, bandits, hovering helicopters, their toenails fell off. I mean, it was a leap that my father took because he just believed that his children deserved a better life and better opportunities. And so we then arrived in Pakistan. And, it's so interesting because they had one contact when they arrived in Pakistan. And so my father went to this person's house, who was quite a wealthy person.
Crazy.
And went to his house and said, "Can you just house us for a few days?" And they've arrived all dusty and dirty, no toenails.
Imagine.
Like,
Three kids in
3
tow,
kids.
a 6-month-old.
Yes.
Jeez.
Can you house us, please,
Oh
for a
my
few days?
God.
We've just arrived. And it was illegal to house refugees at the time. So the man said, "I can't. It's illegal and I can't house you. I'm really sorry."
Oh my God.
So then they were left out on the streets, and then it was that man's chef that had overheard the conversation, and he came up to my father and said, "I've got a small room. You're more than welcome to stay for as long as you want."
Oh my
And to this
gosh.
day, we always wonder, where is that man?
Oh my gosh.
So we can go back and thank him. And, life is about
What an
those
angel.
opportunities. Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
So what happened then? Because you came along not too long after.
And so then we were in Pakistan, and my father is an architect and my mother's a midwife, so they started looking for opportunities in Pakistan. And so my father he found some contract work in a different city. And so a few months later, my mother fell pregnant, and I was not planned at all. They were just like, "This is a refugee family with another
Perfect time
child
for a baby."
Exactly.
Let's set up the nursery.
Let's set up the non-existent nursery. And so then
Amazing.
my father was living in a different city and coming back on the weekends. And so when it was time for me to come to Earth, he was not living in the same city as my mom. So she had to give birth to me on her own.
Crazy.
And because she's a midwife, she obviously knew what to do.
Yep. I don't think it's the same. I don't think it's the same thing being a midwife to yourself.
No.
Like, let's just be clear about that.
Different.
Wow.
And so she gave birth to me on her own. She cleaned up on her own. She gave birth to me in the garden area of our home.
Amazing.
And she had a 2-year-old at the time as well, and I think an 8-year-old. And so, yeah, she literally cut the umbilical cord, and that's how I arrived to planet Earth. So I think I've been very
Amazing.
independent since then. And, and I was telling you earlier as well, I never had this conversation with my mum.
Yeah.
We never went into this whole feminine, energy of how this actually affects me, how it affected her. I mean, it would be
that
traumatic.
must have been, oh my God, come on, of course.
The most traumatic thing.
I mean, it's, you just think that is just such an inspiring moment of bravery and courage, and just almost that idea of survival mode.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, baby needs to come now. I need to live, baby needs to live. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
But I think there is this, whether you feel like it's the idea that God takes over, or this incredible calmness in the middle of a disaster, but there is this thing that, again, we don't have a word for it.
Yes. We don't.
We don't have a word for it in English.
In English. It does exist, I think, in other languages.
I think so. And even I think there are nuances that talk about this incredible power of within. Some people, they say it's God within. Spirituality, the soul. I mean, it's quite interesting. Even we say things flippantly or like cliches or whatever. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But yeah, of course, this is an incredible moment of you coming to the world. I mean, wow.
You know, and I've done a few different this is random, but feminine energy courses over the years to stay in my feminine energy.
Beautiful.
And one of the things that I learned from the course was basically this kind of stuff only used to happen in the Mayan times or like what? And so I was in one of these courses and we were watching a video about this young woman who gave birth on her own, and the teacher was talking about how incredible this was, and I said, my mum gave birth to me like that, and she was totally
she
shocked.
freaked.
She's like, what? She goes, what happened? I said, to be honest, I don't really know. Here I am presenting you garden baby. So
well, you know what, you'll always be super grounded, that's for sure.
Exactly. And you know what's really interesting is that I find nowadays there's definitely a shift in energy. A lot of people going back to natural ways.
Yeah, for sure. We need to, babe.
Yeah,
we have to. We have to put our feet on the freaking ground every now and then. Thank God we go to the beach.
Yeah,
that's all I can say.
100%.
Because how often do you actually take your shoes off and walk around on the grass?
Exactly.
They've shown that it's so important for the rhythms. It helps the rhythm of the body.
Exactly.
You know, we were talking about vibration.
Yes.
We have just become so disconnected. It's scary.
In every sense. I mean, they say one of the things you should do every single day is walk on grass, sand, something that grounds you. But yeah, I live in a high rise. So.
Babe, I'll tell you a quick funny story.
Please do.
We were working with a client. They were starting up a unique business, which is a combination of like healing and different types of work. It's very positive, amazing. I'm not going to say too much.
Okay.
But then part of, their pitch to us when they were introducing their business, because we were working together, was, and we do grounding. Okay. And we said, what's grounding? And they said, well, we take people outside and we take our shoes off and we stand on the grass. We were like, wow, that's amazing, but it is actually quite comical. We're laughing about it, but they were doing like grounding workshops and taking people to the desert to just put the feet in, and it's just
walking, really.
It's kind of funny. I mean, you have to laugh at it. I mean, but it was an important part of them because they were bringing science and breath work and healing and fitness and all of that together, and it was like, it's really important. And we were like trying not to. We were like, yes, it is really important. And we were thinking like, little kids, what do? They take the shoes off.
Yes.
They run around. They love it. They sit down. They get dirty. And then we become super disconnected. Yes. We live in a high rise.
Exactly.
I mean, we're missing a lot of that.
A lot of that.
Vibration.
And it's so important you say that because even in the medicine world.
Yes.
We can heal ourselves. Yes. Everything, breath work, even these herbs that, old school tales or old wife tales,
Yeah.
I used to make fun of growing up, but actually turmeric, ginger, lemon, honey, all of that stuff. It's all nature. It's all there for us.
Yes, it is.
But we're paying $50 for a turmeric latte now. Golden latte.
It's funny. Honestly, we have to laugh at ourselves. It's funny. But I want to get back to you and your story because you are someone that we all I think we kind of feel like we know you a little bit. We hear you on the radio in the morning or in the afternoon and then, it's like, there's Maz. And like, I really, when I hear your voice, I really distinctly know it's you, and I follow you on social media, and of course we know each other, but it's the idea that today we live this existence where people think they do know us.
Yes.
And I think they look from the outside and think, maybe it's, it's a bit easier for you because you have a platform or you had a platform with the radio show.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you feel about that type of a sentiment? Because I know that you've worked very, very hard for everything.
Well, I'd have to say I've created all my own opportunities. And, in life, I feel that there are little angels that come your way or things that come your way. And I truly believe, come back to the alchemist, that things happen and you need to take action on those opportunities. And it depends on what you do with those opportunities. But none of this was given to me. And I know from the outside, it might look like it's easy to start a fashion brand because I have like a radio platform or anything, but actually they're two totally different things and require two totally different skill sets. Or same with my poetry.
They're so unrelated, actually.
Exactly.
They're so unrelated. But I agree with you. I think it is easy to say, it was so easy for her to get that opportunity.
Yeah.
No. I mean, let's talk about you're wearing this beautiful jacket.
Thank you.
You've made it part of your mandate to include all of this gorgeous traditional Afghan handiwork.
Yes.
I mean, these are very mindful decisions.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So this is all sustainable material. They're all vintage material.
Beautiful.
And there's so much more for me with Espand. That's what the brand is called. So Espand means to ward away negative energy.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's amazing.
And our logo is the little eye as well.
That's awesome.
And basically it's about keeping the culture alive. It's, I started this brand when I went to Afghanistan, hosted a TV show there, got inspired by all the vibrant colors, materials, came back, and I bought a bag from Afghanistan and I wore it through Dubai Mall, and I remember people stopping me all the time saying, this bag is beautiful, it had lots of mirrors. So I decided to start on my own.
Amazing.
And it's been a learning curve. Like nothing is easy. And also even having this platform, I'm still hustling, emailing lots of, different retail outlets or suppliers.
I don't think you can really get on the radio and start plugging your
highly niche
fashion line. It's actually what you've done is take on a whole other life.
100%.
It's actually more work.
Exactly.
It wasn't like it was easier.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally. But the process of actually starting that or launching that, I mean, how did that come about? It's really interesting.
So, when I came back from Afghanistan and I was inspired by all this material, I decided to start this fashion brand. And the first thing I did was buy the label. I created a logo and bought some labels.
Like the woven labels?
The woven labels. I didn't have a brand. I had nothing to start. I didn't even know. Like,
that's awesome.
It was, and that's my way, and that's what I apply to everything in life. I just say, just start. Don't overthink it. Don't overcomplicate it, and just begin.
Yeah.
And so when you have a thought and you're in that momentum, have an idea, sometimes we dwell on the theory side.
Yeah.
Too much. Getting things perfect. It's never
good. I'm sure if you really thought about what it does take to do a fashion brand.
Oh gosh, I wouldn't have started. Trust me, it would have never happened. Because
cool,
it is.
though.
Oh my god,
it's very tricky.
It's very tricky, and I'm learning this every single day.
Amazing.
It's a new world to me.
But you're making everything here in Dubai?
Yes,
that's awesome.
So I get it all hand sewn. And
gorgeous.
The complicated thing, I don't want to say it's complicated, but it's every piece of Afghan material is different.
Oh, wow.
So
that's complicated.
So the scaling part is a bit complicated. So now we've got a new range, which is kind of accommodating to a more of a mass audience. But this sustainability was really important to me, having something that represents me, my culture,
And look, this is not a trend-driven thing. I mean, this is something that you keep forever.
Exactly.
Probably hand down to someone that you think will love it. I mean, it's really, really beautiful. It's incredible that you're doing it because there's a message that is coming through that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think especially now more than ever, certain parts of the world, Afghanistan is being perceived in a very negative light, and
baby, you've got Afghanistan and Pakistan.
Exactly. So it's so important to keep that, that vibrancy, that color.
I think it's really important that people like yourself are doing things with a positive energy.
Yes.
But now that I know that it's all about positive energy, I mean, you yourself are a ball of positive energy.
Thank you.
I mean, as a person who tends to look at things with let's say optimism, I think.
Yes.
How do you make choices? Like, what's your framework of living your life in a way that you feel you can always be constantly moving forward or moving towards your goals, your dreams?
Yeah.
You talked about vision boards. Do you have a vision board?
I have a vision board.
Okay.
I have a vision board on my phone. I have a vision board at home.
Amazing.
And I think it's important to have that. I'm a very visual, creative person. So for some people, you can write down your goals, but for others, the creative side is, having it in the form of pictures.
Yeah.
So I've always, every year I create a new vision board. But for me, I journal a lot. I write down my feelings a lot.
Yeah.
And that's how the poetry book sort of came about.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of like listening to different people, experts on these sort of topics.
Amazing.
Because I like to have some sort of science behind it as well. I wake up in the morning, listen to affirmations every single morning without fail. I'll light a sage.
Amazing. So you have these constants in your life.
I do.
Okay, that's
that
beautiful.
sort of grounds me.
Yeah.
And whether or not the sage is doing anything or not, or the affirmations, listening to them, for me, that's what centers me and that's what grounds me and kind of, I feel like that's the best way to start your day.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. And I mean, I want to talk about the poetry book, but I just still want to stay on the fashion because, I mean, you've told me that it's actually really hard. It's been really difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, again, let's talk about when things are difficult.
Yeah.
What does someone, like, what's the Maz way of handling a difficult situation?
I think I try not to, and we were talking about this before, I try not to get too sad when something doesn't go my way and not too happy when things go too well. I try and keep a temperament.
You're not out there on Instagram.
Yeah.
Oh, look at me.
Something exciting coming. I can't reveal it yet. But yeah, I try and keep this neutral temperament. And I think that honestly changed after COVID. Before COVID, I'd say not a different person, but I was very excitable about everything.
Interesting.
But since COVID, I had that time to really work on myself. So I think keeping that neutral temperament when something doesn't go my way, I try and find peace in everything.
Yeah.
And that I find, and even in Islam we say, it's so important to find peace, whether that's in a person or a thing. In the Japanese culture, you say ikagi.
Yes.
Your purpose. But it's difficult finding your purpose. But as long as something feels calming and it is at peace, and you don't feel this niggling feeling to try and prove yourself to anyone else.
Yeah.
Or, I think that is how I personally deal with it. And that's since COVID, and that's when I started the brand.
Amazing.
That is for me how I deal with things. I try not to get too excited or too sad and just keep chipping away every day. James Clear says if you do just that 1% every single day, then there's bound to be an improvement.
Yeah.
You're bound to make it happen.
Amazing.
I remember I was working in radio promotions in Sydney.
Oh, really?
At Today FM. I don't know if you remember.
Of course. Hello.
So I was like the promo girl.
Oh my God.
And I was doing that for like a year and a bit. And I was just a bit confused about what I wanted to do, how I was going to become a radio presenter. It just seemed so impossible at the time.
My gosh.
Because I remember that day I went to a Justin Bieber concert, like out on the outskirts of the concert, interviewing people. And it was in the rain, and I was just really sad because I was like, what am I doing? I don't even get to go in the concert.
Oh, babe.
And then the next day I had a dog wedding. I had to dress the dogs for this wedding. And I was like, what am I doing with my life?
That is a low point right there.
That was a low point. I was dressing the little bow tie, the groom dog. And I was like, what am I, like, what is going on?
So this was a story you were covering for Today FM?
This was a story I was covering. It was an actual huge promotion at a dog wedding. And so I finished and I got into a taxi. And I remember it was quite late. And the taxi driver said, oh, you just came out of the radio station. It's a very popular radio station. I said, yeah, it is. And he was like, what do you do for them? And I said, well, I don't know. And he goes, what do you mean? And I said, well, I work in promotions. And he goes, well, sounds like that's not really what you, and I said, well, I like it, but it's not really what I want to do long term. And he said, well, what do you want to do? This is the taxi driver.
Amazing.
And I said, well, I want to be a radio presenter, but anyway, it seems impossible. And he said, well, why is it impossible? And he said, by the way, I was a scientist in India, so, I'm not, I know what I'm talking about. So then I opened up. It was a long journey. It was a 45-minute journey. And he said, so you want to be a radio presenter? And I said, yeah, but it's impossible. You don't just step into a radio presenting job. And he said, I will tell you something, and this is science, because I'm a scientist. He said, if you keep at something for long enough, you focus on it for long enough, and you keep at it, it is bound to happen. You will make it happen. You've just got to be committed.
Oh, there's a
block
science.
Everything out.
Hello.
Well, it's the same thing, like 10,000 hours in one thing. There's a book called One Thing that you should just focus on any one thing at a time. And I still to this day remember what he said.
That's amazing.
And I remember getting out of the car thinking, this man doesn't know what he's talking about. Okay, thanks.
But it's funny, like even when you're recounting this in your mind and you're saying the words that he said, you will make it happen. I mean, we say this all the time.
Yeah.
You will make it happen. If you keep on it, you will make it happen. How? How do we make it happen?
Yeah. In Farsi, there's a saying. And the proverb is, tu arakat ko ma barakat. And basically that means, it's like a religious proverb kind of thing. And it's like God's telling you, if you take a step, I will give blessings to that path.
Amazing.
So you take the steps, the initial step, and I will clear the way, and I will give you the blessings. And I'm quite spiritual when it comes to these things, because I think, having blessings in anything you do is so important. Doing it with the right intention, doing it with your whole
intention
heart.
is very important.
Yeah.
I
agree.
My goodness, that's beautiful.
So I think it's that making it happen really is sometimes just taking the first step, having the right intention, and then just having faith that everything will be okay.
I think that's a lot to do with it. I would love to just bottle this so people can buy it and spray it on themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
When they're not feeling the best. You're like, amazing.
Sold online. So
Look, it's really funny because we were talking before about how we use our words.
Yes.
How we say things in a very flippant, off the cuff kind of way.
Yes.
You are a master of words because you've written a book of poetry.
Yeah.
How did that come about? I mean, was that an aha moment? Did you write it in 10 minutes after you had this, this kind of I don't know, how did it come together?
Well, I went through a breakup just before COVID.
Emotions.
Yeah.
Hello.
And I growing up, I always used to write poetry and recite poetry.
In English?
In English.
Amazing.
And so when I went through this breakup, I had and it was COVID at the time, so I was on my own at home. It was just that crazy few months.
Yep.
And so
you were completely alone?
I was completely alone, not seeing anybody, going to the studio, And I would write my feelings in my notes in my phone.
Beautiful.
So I would write my feelings, my thoughts, sometimes letters to myself, to other people. And so I would, and it's so interesting how anything that really makes you feel deeply, I find that you should really just harness, how we say bottle that up and sell it. Yeah. That, if we could bottle that up, because those feelings that come from adversity, those feelings that come from love, from heartbreak, from passion, that is really, I find, what can really drive you, that fire. And so for me, writing those notes in my phone was just a way of dealing with those emotions.
Amazing.
And so after the course of, I think, a year, I decided to publish them online on my Instagram. Amazing. It was very vulnerable. It's very tough to do that, to
wow.
write heartbreak poems, to write, poetry in metaphors. And so that was a big leap for me, because I think people judge you,
Yeah, of course they do.
online. So
Yes.
I started doing that, and then I got approached, and I had a publishing deal, and a book deal came from it. And yeah.
That's
So
amazing.
that's how it started. And it's interesting now when I look back at some of those poems, I feel like a different person wrote them.
But that's okay. It's part of that journey of releasing.
it is.
And I think it's very important to acknowledge that you cannot go back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Exactly. 100%.
There's something that as well we say as humans, like you just hear it all the time. I want to go back to XYZ. I want to go back.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
It's impossible. It's done. And the title of my book is called Green Space.
Nice.
And green space in the Afghan culture, the Farsi word is jo sabz. So you say that to someone when they're traveling, or when someone leaves your life. And that means, may that space always be green. So in the Western world, when someone leaves your life, you say, it's an empty space, or it's a void, But in the Afghan culture, we say, may that space always be abundant and green.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So it's called green space. So it's healing, but it's always like, well, now that thing's gone, may that space always be abundant and green.
That's beautiful.
So that's
So
what
you need
green
another
space.
really bad break.
No, please don't wish that
Can
on
we get
me.
our energy from somewhere else?
I interviewed Dua Lipa, and
Oh, how cool.
yeah, she had a tattoo on her arm. That's when she was dating Anwar Hadid.
Yes.
And it was an Arabic tattoo. And
Oh.
and at the end of the interview, when we were packing up, I said, it's an Arabic tattoo. And she said, yeah, she was really smiley and, very much in love. And I said, so what meaning does that have, or something? I was trying to ask her about it without actually asking her. And she kind of fobbed it off. And then I said to her, I really like your breakup songs. I find your breakup songs are like, the best rather than your love songs. And she got a little offended because,
Okay.
well, I mean,
You're like, dude, I'm the poet of the breakups.
Exactly. I'm like,
We're sisters.
I'm like, I think I prefer her and Adele's and Taylor Swift's breakup songs.
What is the emotion?
Yeah, it's the emotion. Yeah.
But what did she say?
I think she said, no, that's what she said, I deserve to be happy. That's what she said. Yeah, she kind of. And I was like,
she
oh,
does.
well, yeah.
We all do.
That was awkward. Even though I prefer her breakup song.
But I like that you said that to her,
Yeah.
because it's like, it's really real.
Anything. And Robin Sharma, who wrote The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari and the 5 a.m. Club, says adversity builds mastery.
Yeah.
And there's a Rumi quote as well, that you have to keep breaking your heart until it opens.
That's beautiful.
So I find in adverse times, even though we don't see a light at the end of the tunnel, sometimes we get the best version of ourselves. But you have to get through that period first.
Yeah, you do. And you have to live through it. And I think you have to have a certain connection with yourself to be able to manage.
100%.
I mean, you are someone who does connect, who makes the time to connect through meditation.
Yeah.
I think your poetry writing is also a way of connecting.
Yeah.
Not everybody does that.
Yeah. I think it's very easy to get distracted. I think it's very easy to get FOMO, to look around people around you and think that person's doing this person has this many opportunities, but it's so important to find that peace. And that, I think, is invaluable. That peace that comes, and we were talking about it before, that temperament of when something good happens, you don't get overjoyed. When something bad happens, you don't get too sad. Just being at that very level-headed, rational, mind, and just kind of accepting, letting life happen for you rather than to you. And knowing that the universe will have your back, regardless of what happens.
So I want to see your vision board.
Oh my God.
Okay, it's for you.
I mean, because they say you have to have crazy dreams, right? And
oh, come on, babe. It's only a dream. I mean, I get shocked when you tell people, think of the biggest, most amazing thing, and they start saying, "Oh, I can't think of that." You're like, well, yes,
why?
you can.
Exactly. Will Smith says that,
but it's crazy.
It's crazy. Will Smith always says that. Why would you dream a small dream? Dreams are free. Dreams that you can dream the craziest dream.
There's a fear.
There's a fear.
There is a fear of what if I dream and it doesn't come true? It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's definitely a fear. It's a fear of failure.
Yeah.
I think it's a fear of telling other people your dreams in case they judge you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, it's a difficult one because...
Okay. So we've got the dream job.
Yes.
We've done this beautiful fashion line that continues to grow and flourish. We're a published author. What's coming next?
Well, I would love to grow Espand, to really grow it. Mm-hmm. I'm selling online. I was available at a few different retailers, but I want this to really, to really go international and really put more time in Espand. Amazing. I'm also doing these podcasts, which are amazing as well. So speaking to different experts on different things, which I really love because I'm learning so much myself.
Yeah, how beautiful.
And I don't know, I'd like to write something else. I wrote a children's book, but I haven't published it yet.
What else have you done?
It seems like it's a lot.
What's that one about? That's beautiful.
So it's called Be Loud and Be Proud.
Ooh,
something like that. Yeah.
Gorgeous.
I read it a while ago, actually. I've even got the visuals and everything. And it's basically about a timid school child who, trying to teach them how to use their voice and be loud and be energetic and yeah. And not
Hello.
I need
how
to
do a vision board at the end.
Yeah.
I think you should just add that bit for all the kids.
Because it's really, I've got all the visuals, I've got everything. I just haven't really
have
gotten
to
it
make it happen.
I've got to make it happen.
Come on, that's a 2023 project.
100%.
Yes.
I need to publish that. But,
oh my gosh, absolutely. I know, there's one thing that I always feel from you is this real joy.
Yes.
It really does come through. Even when you're talking on the radio, you love to crack a joke. You love to kind of, get someone into a warm conversation.
Yes.
You were telling me before we started about, the woman that you'd had on the radio. Yeah. I find that really inspiring.
Yeah. So she called me a few weeks ago. I get these calls often. Yeah. And she called me, and one of the segments I have on the show is tell me something great happening in your life at the moment.
Typical. I love it. I love it. That just sums you up,
force
babe.
them to tell me something good. And she really couldn't think of one thing. And sometimes when you put someone on the spot, tell me the best thing that's happening in your life. Okay, maybe not in the last 24 hours, but tell me something recent. She couldn't tell me one thing. She went, my kids go to school, I was like, well, no, I'm asking about your life.
Yeah.
That's, of course, that's a part of your life, but that's their school.
Yeah.
You tell me about you.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I can't really, I guess there's work and, I'm going home now. So, and she couldn't think of anything. So I gave her some homework and I asked her to make a vision board. And she's like, I've never done anything. What is a vision board, And so I sent her some examples. And half of this is all off air. I talk to a lot of people off air as well.
Amazing.
And a week later, she called me. She said, I've done this vision board. She emailed it to me. And it was incredible. Literally, it's like I give them homework. She's like, okay, miss.
I really can do it.
And she created this vision board, and she said, I feel so much more empowered.
That's amazing.
I know what I need.
That's
I know
amazing.
I'm looking forward to a trip. I need to make a bit more money. I have my family life. I have my home life. I want to feel empowered with my age and not restricted. So she said, I feel really strong. I've never really felt this. She said,
what a different tone.
Totally different. She
Amazing.
felt helpless and confused and just, you need things to look forward to in life. You need little goals. You need, to book that next holiday. You need to have things to look forward to. I really believe that. Otherwise, you're just floating through life and, the tide can pull you in different directions. So you really need to call the shots and really have a vision of where you're going.
I mean, you use this word vision a lot.
Yeah, I do.
You are a visual girl, that's for sure. But no, I really think that the kids' book is a must.
Yeah.
Because I think it's very important that children are brought into this dialogue early and are taught to use
100%.
not only their mind in
Yeah.
terms of, we talk about daydreaming. Daydreaming is not really visualizing.
Yeah.
So understanding how to craft, use their mind to craft, which I think is something that we find on a self-discovery usually as we get older.
Absolutely.
And also the idea of I love to be loud and to be proud. These are, it's really simple language, but, talk about it, be proud of it. And then if they can visualize it, I think it's brilliant and I think you have to do it.
I must do it. I need to make it happen.
You must do it. I think this has just come up, as we were chatting, and it's you have to do it.
And, especially, children now have so many distractions with social media, now with AI, school, video games. There's so many distractions.
They're highly computer literate, but their attention level is so low.
Yeah.
The whole ADHD thing, it's everyone has it. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. But we're as a culture, we're doing probably everything we can to exacerbate that type of a condition.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's so many things that I feel are being lost.
Absolutely.
Putting pen to paper. The idea of crafting a board of images that, you know what I mean? These things are just starting to get pushed away.
Those little DIY, little projects that you used to have at school. Now everything's on an
all
iPad.
The crafty stuff. Yeah, totally.
Laptop. And there's a beauty in using your hands for things, which we don't do enough. That's another way of grounding.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I should probably write
it's a must. Everybody knows now.
Yes, it's out in the universe.
You've literally got 10 days.
Everything's done, by the way. It's all, I've even got the visuals. I've got the cover.
If you don't have a publisher by the time this airs, you've got a publisher already.
I do. I just need to email them.
Make it happen, baby.
Make it happen.
Okay, so as we close, I just would really love, and usually we end on this.
Yes.
Just your kind of 3 pearls of wisdom.
Yeah.
Or 3 things that have really connected with you in terms of making anything happen. What would those most important things be? If you have someone sitting here, a child or whatever, they say, I want to do something, I don't know where to start.
The first one I'd say is dream big, dream crazy. You have the opportunity to dream, and dreams are free. So why dream a small dream, And what do they say? If you reach for the stars, you might land, on the moon or on the clouds. So dream a crazy dream. What's the craziest dream that you want to make happen? So that for me is one. And it doesn't have to be a realistic dream. Why would you dream a realistic dream?
Totally agree.
So that would be my first. My second thing would be write it down. Write it down somewhere, keep a journal. I have this thing called Life Book. And there's actually a course about it, and I didn't want to pay for it because it was so expensive. So I did it myself, my own version. I don't know if I did it right, but it is there.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah. It's working for you, babe.
Well, I guess so. But it's basically where you create a book of your life before it's happened in different chapters.
Vision board on steroids.
A vision board on steroids. So
oh my God.
There's different chapters like health, love, happiness, wealth, all of this stuff. So write it down. And subconsciously, without even realizing, you will get closer and closer to it because you are cementing that in the universe and the world.
So how much does someone else pay for that?
Oh, I think it's in dirhams, it would be 2,500-3,000 dirhams, I'd say.
Oh my God.
Proper course. But I don't know if I did it right. I just did my own version on Canva and Word. But there's
another Aussie success story.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a bit like your friend saying that they're paying for grounding. I'm kind of like, well, I could make my own life.
I could probably just about manage that.
Yeah.
It is my life after all.
It is my life. And if I'm the one writing it and saying my goals, I may as well just construct it on Canva.
That's amazing.
So that's the second one. And the third one would be find peace. So whether that's in a person, whether that is in a group of friends, whether that's in a job, whether that's in sport, find something that gives you peace. What is that thing that brings you peace? I think the most valuable thing you can ever have in life is peace. Even more than, I don't know, like happiness or excitement or passion. I think peace is something that's really underrated. And having that like neutral sort of temperament of, nothing really bothering you too much, you just having faith and trust that everything will be okay.
I love that. I love to know, I don't know the answer to this, but if the vibration of being at peace is in fact the alpha, or I wonder,
I think
do you know?
On the scale, so the least, the bottom is envy, hatred, anger, and then it goes up to, I think the middle is like neutral. So you feel neutral. And then it goes into love. And I think the highest one is like happiness or being ecstatic. So I think in the middle is somewhere. I mean, it's somewhere in the middle.
Oh, so interesting.
Where it's sort of should be.
Because I think it's quite interesting because, when they talk about the law of attraction and things like that, I mean, I don't think you just want to walk around being like, oh, I'm so happy.
Happy all the time. So true.
That's kind of a little weird in the sense.
So
but
true.
When you meet someone who is at peace, there's such a beautiful aura.
Yeah.
There's such a moment of just connection in that time together.
Yeah.
You feel it. We all feel it. We've all experienced these things. Even if it was you with your taxi driver, I mean, it's there is something about that energy.
Yeah. And I find you're a lot more in control.
Yeah.
You're a lot more cemented and grounded. You don't let things around you, really distract you from your purpose or distract you from your day. Sadhguru has a saying that sometimes when you get angry or agitated or annoyed, it's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Because
that's such a good analogy, by the way.
Like anger or hatred or annoyance, irritants, all of that. We all get it every now and then. I mean, we all have it. We're human.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think being at peace and being in a neutral state just benefits everybody. Benefits you, benefits the people around you. You gravitate more people, more of this right kind of people.
But it's also that idea of letting things go, or like you were saying, seeing your life more from the outside rather than being like.
So I remember when I went to the Himalayas and I did this course from this school of thought called Vedanta.
Vedanta. So cool.
It was so cool actually just doing it in the Himalayas.
I know, right? And you went by yourself?
I went by myself for 6 days. It was the most incredible experience of my life. And what they teach you is basically like you should be looking at your life like a movie. So everything that happens to you is not really happening to you, because if something were to, God forbid, happen to your neighbor or something, you'd be sad, really sad.
Sure.
But it's not like the same as if it were to happen to you.
Yeah.
So you need to kind of take a step back and look at your life like you were looking through a movie, and it comes back to life is happening sort of to you, for you and not to you, and not taking everything so personally, letting it go. Same thing with, I do this 6-phase meditation, and the first phase is forgiveness.
Beautiful.
Forgiving people in your life, that have hurt you in any sort of way. So you just learn to not hold on to anything, because those things actually turn into like disease later in your life. When you hold on to, it's all bottled up energy and it turns into something else.
Yeah. You didn't watch that show Beef?
No. What? Tell me.
It's about that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's literally the whole series about two people just getting back at each other. Like they just cannot let it go.
Yeah, right.
It starts with a road rage incident.
Yes, I have seen it. And
it's shocking.
Oh my
it's
God,
shocking.
yes,
it's
on Netflix.
It's the epitome of not letting go. And it's traumatizing what happens to these people.
And it builds, and that is a perfect example in life of if you don't let something go, it just turns into this, morphs a life of its own.
100%. I mean, it's a funny show to watch, but it's quite close to the bone.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, interesting.
Yeah.
But watch this space.
Yeah.
So we're expecting from you a children's book this year.
apparently.
It will be another collection from Espand and probably some other amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's see. Let's see, you know.
I'm so grateful that you took the time
Thank
to
you.
share with us, and we would love to speak to you again in the future.
Thank you. I would love that. And
Yeah.
you're doing absolutely amazing. You have such beautiful energy yourself. You're so
Oh.
easy to talk to. And this is such a nice space. And yeah, I know it's going amazing. And I wish you all the very best.
Thank you
even more
so
success.
much, darling. Thank you. We really appreciate
My
you.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.